I want to talk to you today about Memory Master, Classical Conversations Memory Master. What is it? So, you know how we have the 3 cycles in the Foundation's curriculum, and that each year we're covering one cycle. And there's the new grammar time of each week where they learn the new grammar for that week, and then we have review time where they're reviewing the past 7 weeks worth of information. Well, all of that information, all 24 weeks worth, is what makes up Memory Master. So it's when a child recites, learns, masters all 100% of all 7 subjects and recites it, and that is a Memory Master. So there's a tiny bit more to it, but that's the basics. And so then I want to look at a few things with you. So when I'm making this video, it's 2023. We're at the end of cycle 2. So I'm going to look here in my Foundations book with you at what I'm talking about. So looking at, starting on page 158, you will see what are called proof sheets. So it's where each spread is the entire year's worth of one subject. So right there is the math spread. If you turn the page, we've got the Latin for the whole year. Turn the page, we've got science, all 24 weeks of science. Turn the page, all 24 weeks of English. Turn the page, all 24 weeks of timeline. Turn the page, all 24 weeks of history. One more. Turn the page, all 24 weeks of geography. And then right after that, you have your Blackline Master Maps. There's 2 per cycle. So this year we've got the world and Europe. So basically a Memory Master is mastering all 7 of those subjects, all 24 weeks worth, and then they're going to recite that to prove their mastery in 3 1/4 proofs. So the first proof, they're reciting it to their own parent. The second proof, they are reciting it to another parent. And this is going to be easiest to be done with another CC parent who knows what they're doing, but it could technically be any parent. Any adult rather. The third proof is with the child's tutor. And then the fourth proof is only 1/4 of the information. It's that you think of it more like a spot check, and that's with the Foundations Essentials director. That would be me. So there are rules that CC puts out about how to do each subject. So some subject, it's mostly straightforward, but some subjects have some little interesting tidbits. So we can go subject by subject and talk through those. So math, if you look at weeks 1 through 9, you'll see the 1s through 15s multiplication facts. At the time of proofing, which the proofs start usually the last several weeks of the Foundation's year. So if the child is not yet 10 by the proofing time, then they may skip count those. They can sing it, skip count it. If they are 10 or older, they have to use the multiplication cards and go through them shuffled, and they shuffle the cards and go through the entire deck. So if you'll see that it's got the commutative property on here, so they don't, this deck prevents having to do both of these facts separately. So the child can just do this as one fact. So these are really nice. You really can't find other cards that go 15 to 15 unless you homemake them or buy them on Etsy, which is essentially homemade. Latin for cycles 1 and 2, it's just 6 weeks worth of information. So Latin is usually a very simple and easy subject for kids to master. Science, those have to be answered in complete sentences. So if you look like, for instance, week 15, what are 2 forms of energy? The correct response is 2 forms of energy are kinetic and potential. There's lots of lists a lot of times in science. It doesn't matter what order the list is given in, because remember, we're just trying to see if the kids have mastered this information. Is the information in their heads? And if a list order doesn't matter in life, in the fact of the problem, then it doesn't matter here either. So sometimes lists might matter, but usually they don't. And they don't. I can't even think of a time in science where they mattered. What occurred on each day of creation, if they got the, day 1, dry land and plants, then that would be incorrect. So that in that case, that matters. English, trying to think if there's anything to note here. Frequently in English, you will have lists of words that span multiple weeks. The kids can absolutely just say those all as one big chunk. You do not need to ask them, tell me the middle of the preposition song. That's cycle 1. Timeline. Kids can totally sing this. And by the way, all this information can be sung, spoken, chanted. It doesn't matter how it comes out of their mouth. It just needs to be able to be heard and understood. So most kids sing the Timeline song from beginning to end. And then they also sing or recite the list of presidents. History, very straightforward. You ask the prompt, tell me about World War II leaders. They respond with the sentence there. Very simple. Geography does have a couple notes. So for geography, they have to use the Blackline Master Maps, and they have to know all the locations in two ways. One way is, tell me what that black dot is. And their response is Moscow, I think. The other way they have to do it is, show me Moscow. And they point. So they have to know every location both ways. That's pretty challenging. Most people, or it's much simpler to say, show me Moscow. You've given them the word, they just have to point. It's for most kids, it's more challenging to say, what is this? And they have to tell you. But so you have to prepare them to do it, and they have to do it for the proofs both ways. It's going to be, they won't know in advance which week is going to be asked which way. Because when you proof these things, you're going to ask it in a variety of ways. All 24 weeks, there's going to be a really good mixture of the ways that you ask. You don't ask every place both ways, but throughout the course of the 24 weeks, you've asked about half of them as show me and about half of them as tell me. So that's the last subject. There are some other rules that CC shares, and your director should hopefully send you a document. It changes every year, so I'm not going to share it here. It changes just slightly. They just tweak it every year. But the first proof with the parent, you're allowed 3 mistakes per subject. And the second proof, you're allowed 1 mistake per subject. The third proof with the tutor, you're allowed 0 mistakes. And the fourth proof with the director, you're allowed 0 mistakes. Now, a note on the mistakes. I recommend to all of my parents in my community, do not, as a parent, do not pass your child on even to the second proof until they're making 0 mistakes. Just don't put that on another adult to have to say to your child, you did not pass. Don't do that to them. So just make sure that you prepare enough with them and they are prepared enough to not make any mistakes. Now, the reality is there will be hiccups. There will be mental bumps. There will be blanks where your mind goes blank. But if the information is in there, it will come to them eventually. So it's totally fine to come back to that later, even later on when you've moved on from that subject. It's fine to say the wrong thing and correct yourself. It's fine to say something and the proofer says, try again. And then they do it again and they get it right. All of those are fine, and that's not a mistake because we're going here for mastery, not for perfection. So that's the difference there. Perfection would be they say it right the first time, every single time, with 0 hiccups, 0 hesitation, 0 anything. That's not what we look for in Memory Master. What we look for is the information there? Can they pull it up? And a well-prepared student, it will be effortless for, I would say, 98%, 99% of the material. And the other material is also absolutely in there and mastered, but that 1% is just the room for the hiccups and the slight mistakes. So we're aiming for that to not happen, and you're preparing your child for that to not happen, but the reality is it probably will, at least once, but it's okay as long as they can correct it. So that's what the Memory Master process is. Each community celebrates their Memory Masters differently. So I'm not even going to share with you what we do in our community because it really can vary so much, but it is a really, really big deal. CC sells t-shirts that you can buy just for the Memory Masters. We do shirts for our Memory Masters, and I make a really big deal about it in our community that only Memory Masters get these shirts. So it's a huge deal. It is not for everyone. It is high stress. The proofs are high stress. That's actually one of the things I love about it. My oldest son did Memory Master for 4 years, and my second oldest is now going for his 2nd year. And I love the process. I think it is wonderful. I love the pressure that it puts on kids, but I also know my kids can handle it. So you have to know your kid. This is not something a parent can declare their child will do. This is something a child needs to be willing and want to do themselves because it's a lot of work if your child doesn't really want to do it. So I highly recommend that you only do it if your child really wants to. And it also helps then, because there will be times in preparation that it is very frustrating for the child because something they're not getting it or whatever, and you can remind them, you don't have to do this. This is up to you if you want to do it. So just keeping that this is their choice and that they can put in the hard work if they choose to. As an individual, as a parent, we reward our kids with a special thing that's just from us as our family, has nothing to do with our community if they finish Memory Master. So, or if they achieve it. And I've never had a kid not like go for it and not get it. So I guess we'd cross that bridge when we get there. But if they've put in the work and they, almost got it, like they get to the tutor proof and miss one thing, then we would still probably reward them. But hopefully that won't ever happen because we're going to prepare super well. There was one other thing I wanted to share. Yeah, I think CC's official recommendation is to not start this before age 9. I think I agree with that. Although we have in our community every year, we have 1 or 2 8-year-olds. So I just wouldn't even think about it if you had a kid younger than that. It's just not great. So unless your kid is highly, highly, highly motivated, then I wouldn't even bother. I love to see kids do it all 3 years of their essentials years, because then they can do all 3 cycles one time. I think that's really cool and a really great way to do it, and a good goal for you. If you've got youngers, you can maybe set your sights on doing that and encouraging your kids to do that. Make sure you don't save the mastering of the flashcards for a couple months before the first proof once they're 10. Start it at the latest the summer before. The summer before they're going to be 10 for their first proof. So yeah, because this is a lot and it's not really that fun to learn. So hammer that out way in advance so that that's not the one thing holding you back from Memory Master. I think that's really tragic, and I've seen that happen a lot. So don't let this be the reason why you don't do Memory Master. Instead, give a gift to your child by helping them master these way in advance. Way in advance. I think there's something else I need to share with you, but I'm totally forgetting it. I have another video where I share exactly how my family prepares for Memory Master. There are so many different ways to actually prepare. But if you want to just see how my family does it, then you should totally go and find that video as well. But this video is just more about what the Memory Master process is to begin with. So I hope that has been helpful for you if you're brand new to CC or just now considering being a Memory Master, or maybe you're a director who wants to get it started, but you don't even understand what the process is yourself. For you directors, I'm going to make another video about how I do the director proof. So you can find that later as well. Have a great day, guys.